the International Digital Dental Academy podcast. Media partner FMC. Welcome to the future of dentistry.
So, what time is it now?
Cool. So where are you guys? Where are you actually at the moment?
We're up north.
We're up north
on a
actually,
secret
in
location.
Huddersfield. We are doing a training course up here for tomorrow and Sunday. And we've just actually arrived this afternoon.
Yeah.
It's snowing, pretty cold,
Excellent.
and there are ghosts in the bar.
Rocco's. We'll tell you about that. We'll tell you about that later.
Yeah, we're not allowed to mention the hotel
We're not
now.
allowed to mention the hotel.
Because we're not supposed to be
Because
in
it's
here.
haunted.
They'd be very kind to let us use the room.
Should we get going? Should we call it a
Yeah,
start?
Okay. I think
Okay.
we'll just
So-
start recording, yeah?
So we're recording anyway.
Yeah.
Okay,
Chris,
so
We'll
you
do
wanna-
it officially. So we're probably going to use this as the intro.
Yeah. I think that's a great intro anyway.
But anyway,
Yeah.
welcome everybody to the next IDDA podcast. We haven't seen you in a while. Hopefully it's going to be the first in a few that we're going to be doing. Today we have Ed Attenborough, fabulous Ed Attenborough, who has been doing a lot of different things. I've had the pleasure of doing a few things with Ed myself over with PPE stuff over lockdown and this year. But a lot of you will know Ed through a lot of different things. So, Chris, you've got a bit about him as well.
Absolutely. Ed, it's a pleasure to have you with us today on the IDDA podcast. You have a very impressive and extensive CV, and I see you started your career in engineering. Do you want to tell us a little bit about the beginning of your career?
Well, yeah, thanks guys for inviting me along tonight, and it's really great to hook up with you. It's kind of like, you look like a real kind of wintry Christmas setting there with the snow rolling in wherever you are at this secret location.
It's actually in the middle of summer, Ed. We just put a Christmas tree for the show.
But with you guys, I never know what side of the planet you're on either. So you could
We're not actually here.
Right.
This is all in virtual reality. This isn't even real.
Yeah, it is actually snowing,
Yeah.
and the bar is slightly haunted.
You guys are way ahead of me on the backgrounds, you know. I'm gonna catch up on this stuff. I really am. But no, I mean, my background was in engineering, and I basically, when I was at school, I was doing okay academically, and I could have done dentistry. My family, my father was a dentist, my grandfather was a technician, my great grandfather was a dentist. So it was kind of the thing. It was. But my interest was really in engineering. So I was the black sheep of the family. I didn't go down the route of dentistry. Here I am sitting talking to you today. And I read engineering, electronic engineering at Leeds. And I ended up going into software and writing software for things called real-time embedded systems, which are systems which react in real time to control things like rockets or to do signal processing for radar systems. So all kind of 3D
That's
stuff.
totally different than teeth.
Well, kind of, yeah. Highly computationally expensive, intensive things. And in those days, you know, processors they were 16-bit then. That was the state of the art. You know, we got out of the 8-bit video game era and we were into, high-tech 16 bits, and getting things to work in that bandwidth was kind of challenging. So that was my job, really.
Sega Mega Drives.
Yeah.
So was the same thing happening in the space research and NASA? Because I see you were involved with that as well.
Well, I wasn't with NASA. I was with the European Space Agency, and I worked on the Ariane 5 program to develop a new launch vehicle for Europe, basically.
Oh, wow.
Satellites into space. So, that was interesting because basically Margaret Thatcher had decided not to contribute to the Ariane 5 program, but all of the engineers who wrote the Ariane 4 software were English. So we created a little offshoot of a GmbH in Germany that was a pretend German company.
Wow. Do you know what? From just you saying that, that's one of the things that this year, the end of the year of COVID, hopefully we're in a new era next year. But, one of the things I've missed this year is talking to other dentists, face to face, not just online like it has been.
Absolutely.
Learning about the amazing things that people get up to.
Yeah.
And we're in a really fortunate position with, we're talking to people that we do around the world with things. And some of the things that people get up to behind the scenes is really quite remarkable, really. And it's nice to bump into, like when I've seen yourself before, Ed, at the shows, and when you just go to, like we were saying, FMC, supporting this podcast, a great company, They do all the shows and stuff. But one of the things that I really love about those shows and the theatres, when we go there, it's just chatting to different people. Yeah. And I've missed that. I've really missed that. So
much talent.
It's good to chat to you.
Yeah, it's good to be with you guys as well, and hopefully we'll all hook up in person in not too long.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Definitely, yeah.
So what got you into digital dentistry then?
Well, I mean, I was a contractor, basically, a software contractor. So I went freelance as quickly as I could, and ended up working my way around Europe doing various projects. And I ended up in the city in London doing cryptography, which was kind of the forerunner of Bitcoin. So it's a fintech company, and it was called Mondex, and we were doing cryptocurrencies. And that was quite early, because that was in the sort of 96, 97.
Wow.
So then we had this family business in Nottingham that had been going since ever, and there was a lot going on. So I came back one day a week to help Dad out, and you know how these things start, one day a week. So it was a kind of like mission creep. You're doing 2 days a week, and I must say the bank were very good. I was working for NatWest as a contractor, and they put a leased line into Nottingham, into an office at the lab. So that I could actually do programming from Nottingham, ostensibly. But clearly I was spending more time on the business than I was doing programming. And then 2 became 3. And then my boss in London said, look, which way are you going to go? You need to make a decision one way or the other. So I said, okay, I'm going to dive in, and I'm going to, because I kind of got the bug at the lab, and I'm going to do that. So I basically joined the lab full time and started working with my father and a group of incredibly gifted technicians, some of whom had been there over 40 years. And, just working alongside them. I mean, I'd grown up in the lab as a kid. Mum used to use it as a creche. She used to kind of dump me in there when she went shopping. So I, plaster, wax, it's kind of in the DNA, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I was always good with my hands. I could always make model planes and everything else. So it kind of didn't feel that alien. And that's how I got into it. But my main route in really was the digital side of it. That was the key that unlocked the door for me. Because I came in and I looked at this, and I mean, it's wonderful seeing all these people with amazing skill. But in a way, it felt like it was stuck in another era. And I just thought, what if we could bring some tech to this? So that was my in route, really.
Yeah, I mean, people don't really think about it these days. Now, it's kind of ubiquitous that in dentistry we have all these tools that we use with scanners everywhere. And how many people would a percentage reckon send to you as scans now, Ed?
I would just say, well, cut that another way. I would say all of our work's got some element of digital in it.
Really? Yeah. Whereas, if you were to take that and that figure alone and think about it in a different way, if you go back in time, there was a time when that wasn't the case, and there were people like Ed who were really, making those investments and changes that's led to us being here, and you don't think about that.
Yeah.
You just have these, we're a consumer industry, and you think about dentistry like that. We have all these tools, we go and buy, we use them, but it's taken effort to get there. There's a lot of people who've been doing all these things.
I think it's also the concept of parallel worlds that we were saying earlier. If you take, for example, 3D printing started in the early 80s, but because we weren't in a digital era where everyone had computers to actually sit and design CAD programs and do whatever they wanted to do, it didn't really take off in the 80s. Yeah. It had to really catch up with the technology before it was mainstream adoption, So I think everything is, there's always early adopters, as you say, and then there's a mainstream user after that.
Yeah.
I think that's right. I mean, part of the challenge is, isn't it, that technology doesn't really exist in isolation. It's got to fit somewhere in the workflow. So, I mean, we all share a passion for digital tech in a kind of a very, I suppose, nerdy kind of way. I'm sorry I have to join you in on that. But it's good, that we love that tech. But to most people, tech is a means to an end, right?
Yeah.
So it has to be integrated somewhere in the workflow. I mean, we started looking at 3D printing in dentistry, I think, in 2004. And got early printed in from Envision Tech. I think that was the first machine. They were a lovely company. They loaned us a machine for a year for us to play with printing for investment casting. And of course,
it worked for them, didn't it?
Yeah, well, I think so. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, none of the resins worked with investment casting. They all expanded when they burnt out and cracked the investment, and all those things that you guys know so much about. we had a lot of fun with that, and that kind of, you start getting under the skin of the technology and starting to understand the technology a bit better, and how you can start using it for integrating into the workflow at various different points.
Yeah, definitely.
Are you printing everything now? Are you still on Envision Tech, or do you have a variety of?
No, so we don't. We didn't end up going with Envision Tech, because at the time it was a machine called the Profactory, and it was quite expensive for what it was. And you know, I mean, it was good at the time. As a DLP printer, it was way ahead of its time. And I knew the guy who actually invented it, Heinrich, German guy, really lovely guy. But it had some, let's say, technique sensitive issues with it.
Like
that is 3D printing, though, isn't it?
You have to balance on a point while you were printing.
Conclusion.
So we kind of didn't buy that. But we did in the end up getting a 3D Systems machine. It was a DP3000, and that had all the right ingredients. But I spent most of my weekends either inside that machine or underneath it, being an engineer, trying to get it going. But you know, you have to go through that pain threshold, don't you?
Definitely.
So yeah, I guess that's where we started integrating 3D printing. But it was still didn't really come of age, I think. I don't know what you guys think, until intraoral scanners really started becoming, you know, when you start needing to print models. You know,
people want to do things in-house. They want to do everything in-house.
Yeah.
And it kind of lends itself, you know, I say everything for the easy things. You know, the labs are kind of evolving more towards the high end, I think, now, because
Absolutely,
it's easy to get. Well, easy, I say, is the wrong word.
Maybe you should use the word technical.
It's more, it's more technical.
Stuff,
The more technical, difficult stuff that dentists don't want to do. The lab technicians who are gifted already with doing things by hand, with sculpting things with wax, it comes naturally to them to sculpt it on a computer.
Yeah.
So, I'm a great believer, and you know, I know us guys, we've always pushed for a lot of compatibility with the lab side of things.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's not just about the in-house digital dentist; it's the whole team. And I think with the lab side of things alone, a lot of people again forget about the fact that it was lab technicians who really introduced digital dentistry to a lot of people as well. So
yeah, I mean, I think where we are with the chair side versus lab debate, I mean, a lot of technicians feel quite threatened about that, but I don't think they should do, because for our perspective, wherever the digital boundary goes, the further it gets, the more at some point that workflow is going to flow downstream to us.
Yeah.
So, you know, we know that it makes sense to do things chair side, some things chair side, and some things it doesn't make sense to do chair side. And, you know, it comes down to an economic argument as much as a technical argument. You know, when you guys value your chair side time at X, does it make sense to spend 2 times X making a crown that's worth 0.5x?
Exactly.
That's it.
So it's a simple economic argument. And I think, you know, for us, the more scanners are out there, either as standalone scanners or as part of integrated chairside mill units, the better, because the more likely that those clients we're going to be able to access and get our digital services to at some point. So yeah, I mean, I'm all for it.
Yeah.
I really love the fact also how the technicians get so involved in the team, because I've got in-house labbers, you know, and of course they are really part of the dental team now, where they, you know, come in, they do part of the treatments, and they interact so much with the dentist, and so it's less of a boundary, and they're really integrated.
In-house with you.
In-house, they're there, and it's, you know, really making same-day dentistry work.
Yeah.
For a technician as well.
Do you think that improves the results for you? So you know, the communication, the digital communication improves.
Oh, I think so.
The overall result.
I think so.
Yeah.
Lab technicians have their you know, things that
they've been ahead for a long time.
They've been ahead for a long time. They're working ahead of us in some ways. So
I also think that, you know, if you look at the digital data that you get from using digital equipment, there's so much more information there for your technician as well. I mean, it's not just it's very hard when you're writing a letter to a technician and saying, I really want to look very carefully at the lateral excursion. We have a little facet here, or whatever the case may be. But then when you've actually had the scan and the pictures there, it speaks for itself. You know, it's much easier to communicate that to the technician, and he will then see the clinical challenges you have, but he can also communicate to you the technical challenges that might be faced with whatever's been asked of, So I think the digital technologies have obviously enhanced that whole experience, both for the dentist and the technician.
I'll tell you what technicians work well with. I was actually having a chat, two very similar conversations actually over the last week. One with Phil and one with Andy Keeling, who's at Leeds. And we were looking at things, and with the PhD stuff I'm doing, I'm doing a thing with scanners, we were doing. And, some of the scanners now, an intraoral scanner, you can, if you have a static model, you can look at it and, when that study comes out, it'll show that it's, 20, 30 microns up to, even the worst scanners, 50, 60 microns. It doesn't sound like much. And that's probably because as a static model, that's more than likely enough. But the mouth isn't a static environment. And there's going to be all sorts of other problems that, the lab side of things are accustomed to working around or being aware of, in a way more than a clinician. So things like, the mouth opening and the jaw, the anatomy of the jaw, the spread of the arch, maybe just that little bit. So a lab technician who's familiar with working more bigger arch, lab technician, geared, full arch cases, all on fours or whatever, like Phil, he'll be aware of those errors creeping in more. Whereas the dentist might go, well, do you know what? The guy's told me this is accurate. It's 20 microns. Why can't I do a full arch?
Yeah.
When there's valid reasons that a lab technician would think about that's not going to be reality for. So, it's balancing things there.
I think that's right. Knowing what the limitations of technology are, because the guys will sell you, the reps will sell you anything, right? Yeah. And it's, it's being pragmatic about it, because if you know what the limitations of technologies are, what they can do, then you can apply them judiciously and get the best results out of them. We all know that an intraoral scanner can only see a certain area. And so as you go around the arch, you're stitching images together and you get a cumulative error, molar to molar. And that's a known fact. But of course, as long as you know about that, you can account for it in various different strategies. And then actually in the way you scan as well, if you scan the arch and then scan across, you can eliminate the errors and you can help the software to correct that sort of compression that you get sometimes on the arch.
Yeah.
So Ed, part of your education or part of your development is also involved, your career development has also involved the presidency of the Dental Laboratory Association. You've been involved with the General Dental Council. How did you get about? Did you enjoy that side of the management, the leadership, or did it just happen for you?
Was it as short-lived as mine, Ed?
Not quite. No, I wasn't president of the DLA. I was president of the BDI, the British Dental Industries Association. I'm currently president of the European Association. I think if you're going to affect change, it's better to do it on the inside of the tent than on the outside. So I'd rather roll my sleeves up and get involved in it. It can be quite time consuming, and it's always that thing where you're balancing that with all the other projects that are going on. I think actually lockdown and COVID's been quite good in a way for me, not for everybody, but it's really helped me to focus my mind, and really make sure that I apply my time in a way that's useful, because you can just get involved in everything, can't you? And be a bit cool. So Ed,
that leads on to the next question. So what are you busy with at the moment? I mean, for all of us, like you said, in lockdown, we've basically had to sit down, reevaluate our lives, and decide what is important, what is not important, and focus our energy in the direction of things that are important. So is there anything specifically that you are currently working on?
So obviously we did the PPE project, and out of that we started getting into powered air pressure respirators, PAPR, as an alternative to fitted PPE, because a lot of people can't wear fitted PPE for religious reasons, if they're not shaving or whatever.
Or if they just like a beard.
Some people just like a beard. And I mean, looking at your article, Adam, and that picture in that article, and the problems that some people are getting and suffering from extended use of fitted PPE. So we got into this. We introduced a company that's a UK manufacturer to the market, and it's gone really, really well, actually. And I mean, I would still say the majority is fitted PPE, obviously, but people are seeing that PAPR is an alternative. So that's one project. We're involved in a couple of projects around digital dentistry, and the confluence or merging of various different aspects of that. What a lot of people don't know is that we also have an R&D side as well. So we got some money from Innovate UK. We've had a long. So if you look at bespokeimplants.com, it's another side of the business where we manufacture patient-specific implants, cranial, maxillofacial, and orthopedic implants.
Oh, fantastic!
That's really cool.
That we got some money from Innovate UK about 8 years ago to translate the technologies that we commercialized in dental for patient-specific spinal implants to correct to reduce pars fractures and correct scoliosis or curvature of the
Bloody
spine.
hell, Ed, he's been busy.
How
have you had the time, Ed? Have you got a twin?
Well, no, certainly not. But that project worked out quite well. And the guy that was the research associate on that, Jensen, he joined us full time. He's our CTO now. And then we won another big Innovate UK funding thing to develop a brand new intraoral scanning technology. And this technology, the project's just coming to completion on that, and we're looking at licensing that. Excellent. And basically, all of scanning technology at the moment is optical, as you all know. And obviously, it's brilliant, it's well proven, but it has its limitations in being able to see through soft tissue, to see subgingival margins, to be able to see inside the tooth structure, to record 3D cavities, caries digitally. And so we've developed a new technology there that's quite exciting.
Wow.
And then
is it ultrasound for curiosity?
Micro CT?
I can't say.
It's top secret.
It's
wow.
It's a laser-based technology.
That sounds very cool.
It's hyper accurate as well. I mean, it's sub-micron.
Wow.
I would really look forward to that, Ed.
Definitely.
And then we sort of, like everybody else, was sitting around not having much to do during lockdown in the March through sort of June. So we stuffed in an application for the EU for an EU funded project, R&D project, and we won it. And ironically, this country sails off into the sunset on the 31st of December in the EU. But our project starts on the 1st of January. But because it was awarded before we left, we get 3 year. We get 3 year funded.
Oh, that's good.
That's good. That's around 3D printed implants. For patient specific implants rather than using generic implants. So that's quite an exciting project. So that's kind of what we're up to at the moment.
It's actually, do you know what? For a guy who's only 25, it doesn't actually look bad.
Well, it's regenerative. What I haven't told you about is the regenerative medicine project.
Well, he's actually 75.
Stem cell therapy. Yes.
Crikey.
That's the part you're really interested in, isn't it, Adam?
Yeah, definitely. So I think the final thing we were gonna ask you was how do you think AI is going to have an impact on everything that we're doing so far with CAD, CAM, with intraoral scanning, with our lives? Where do you think it's heading at? Some weird things in the news this last week.
I think well, there's the overt and the covert, and AI is already influencing all of our lives more than most people realize. So everything that we do, our digital footprint, it's all being profiled. And
COVID. Sorry,
certain phone companies involved.
Well, it's kind of people farming, isn't it? But in terms of dentistry, obviously for diagnostic purposes, and particularly analysing scans in sequence as you build up scan data for a patient record, analysing from one scan to the next how that's changing, interpreting the data. analyzing the scans, particularly when we get the new generation of scanners that will be able to not just record the surface of the tooth, the texture of the tooth, and the color of the tooth, but record internally. Then we've got the opportunity to apply AI
to red flag things.
Yeah.
Impressive.
Yeah.
Do you know what? I think it'll also make a big difference in decision making. Using your modern scanner for scanning a cavity, and then it suggests what sort of restoration you should put on it as well, not just a matter of taking the information of it. So I think the future of dentistry is exciting, and I'm sure all professions, not just for dentistry, but because we're involved in dentistry, we're really pleased to be involved in that in that development, and it's a wonderful time.
Any other career that ties digital things in with the body, with society, with your work, quite the same as dentistry does with digital, actually. I can't think of any. Can you?
It's pretty unique, I think.
Well, I think we're lucky. We're amazingly lucky because we're at one of those unique points in time where you've got all of the classic knowledge and skills, and you've got all the digital technologies coexisting. And obviously, the digital boundary is going to expand and expand and expand. But at the moment, if you look in our lab, we've got digital technicians, and we always sit them right next to somebody who's got 40 plus years classical experience.
Completely analog.
Yeah, completely analog. But the crossover is brilliant because it's only by having the depth and breadth of knowledge about the classical workflows that you can get the best out of the digital. I think.
Definitely,
absolutely.
So I think we're very lucky. We're at a real exciting time where new technology is coming into a very established and quite conservative sector and disrupting, changing in a very exciting way. And to be involved in that in any way, shape, or form, I think a great opportunity.
I think very encouraging for technicians as well, because I know there's a lot of worry. There's a lot of worried technicians out there, especially with the latest downturn in output from clinics with the post-COVID. But there's plenty going on. But if we see a growth going in the right direction, how do you look at that?
Well, look, I mean, when I came in now, and that was 97, so it's just 23 years disappeared somewhere. The way it's changed was that basically at that time a lot of work was going offshore, right? And although figures were never published, it was as high as 30% of lab work.
I've heard that. I've heard there's a lot of places in the UK that were big places that were using offshore recently. So,
not that it's a bad thing per se, but it's sad to see a domestic skill and resource get lost in that way. Now it's 13%.
Wow.
And that is because of digital technology. Digital technology has made domestic resource more productive, more responsive. And at the time, technicians were saying, look, tech is going to replace us. We're going to lose our jobs because of CAD-CAM. Quite the reverse. The CAD-CAM has actually saved their jobs.
Yeah.
So, coming back to your point about how we see it, it is a really tough time for labs at the moment. Make no mistake about it, and particularly for the NHS labs. It's just awful. And we're okay. We're mostly private. Well, we are private, basically private and sort of dem plan, practice plan type thing. And we're busy. We're really busy, and we can mop up some of that, but we can't mop up all of it. And these people are incredibly skilled people who are extremely employable. And a lot of them are leaving dental technology to maybe go into construction or the trades and earn very good living in that. And once we lose them from dental technology, they're never going to come back.
No.
And I think that's sad. Really, really sad. But on the flip side, in a way, the NHS, we all love the NHS, right? It's a brilliant thing about the UK. But it does have a distorting effect on the market, it may be that after we come out of this, more lab work is private, and that might not be a bad thing.
I would have really liked to have seen. When we were chatting months ago, Ed, when all of this was kicking off with COVID, and we were doing the PPA stuff, and they were building, the Nightingale clinics and stuff like that. the countless billions that have been spent this year in supporting existing jobs, I think I would have much rather at least a large proportion, if not most of it, being spent on revamping the whole of the health service throughout the UK, building new up-to-date hospitals full of technology, new dental clinics full of technology to give new jobs to people. I would have loved that.
Yeah.
And I don't really understand why that didn't happen, but maybe it will in the future.
Politics.
How did we vote for you to be Prime Minister?
Jesus, my life with politics was very short-lived. There's no chance of that happening.
Ed, thanks so much. It's been a pleasure talking to you this evening. All of us have had the great privilege of, speaking on the lecture circuit with you at a lot of the trade exhibitions that we go to. And we look forward to seeing you again, once COVID has been suppressed and we're back to some sort of normality.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for joining us this evening.
I can't wait to come around and see your stand next year.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
It's going to be interesting from what you're saying. It's going to be
Sounds
interesting.
very promising.
We've got to go over.
Yeah.
So we'll try and do a follow-up podcast at a stand at the next show.
Let's do that.
Where we can show what he's been working on.
Yeah.
Keep him busy with his twin.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, amazing. Thank you very much for chatting to us. Okay.
Thank you so much.
All right, have a fab weekend, yeah?
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
See you later.
Thanks, Ed.
Bye, guys.
Thanks.
See you
Bye-bye.
later. Well, that was a great.
That was good.
great
Thanks,
chat.
Ed.
Yeah. So I think it's time for us to sign off.
Yeah.
And
IDDA.
next time we can chat to, I think we've got Arthur next week. We've got a couple of people lined up, so we'll see who comes along next week. But
We've got some very interesting
names coming up here.
characters coming up in the world of dentistry. They're going to share their experiences with us, and they're going to share how they approach life, not just from a dental perspective, but on their personal level, how they've enhanced their careers and the different things that people do, and very interesting things too.
Do you know what? The past year, I think what I said before is kind of maybe we should have these podcasts bring that in a little bit, to bring that little bit of normality to people.
Yeah.
Because at the minute it's just work home. There's no play. There's no going out. We can't. Maybe there is in the part of the world where someone's listening right now. They're thinking, "Suckers!" We're here. We can work. We can socialize this, but the rest of the time, once you go home, that's it.
Outside work and education.
Exactly. So if we can bring a little bit of something interesting for people to listen to, I hope that it makes your lives a little bit more creative to bring something into your lives, or even just enjoy listening to us. So it's been nice chatting.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah,
Thank you very much, and see you soon.
Good night.
Good night.
The International Digital Dental Academy Podcast. Media partner FMC. Welcome to the future of dentistry.